Santa Claus came early with the cringe. His little helpers were cooking up something fierce, and, well, it got gifted under my tree a bit early today, and I wanted to share it with all of you. It's definitely different than the normal things we've been covering when it comes to this romantic rabbit hole of tragedy. The worst text messages, the worst flirting, the worst dates. This one is different from all the others I've covered, actually. So, cozy on up with your favorite Christmas sweater, get under the mistletoe, and get ready to kiss your sanity goodbye, because this one is a real head scratcher. For the first time in this goofy little series history, we're getting the perspective of a man talking to a woman here. Usually it's the other way around, where a woman has a really creepy encounter with a man and things go cattywampus, shit pops off, tits up, it's all over the place, it's a catastrophe. This time, we're going Freaky Friday mode, we're switching bodies here, so we're on the perspective of a man who has just matched with a woman from Tinder. They've been talking for a little while and it leads to this. I'm jealous, I want ribeye. I'm assuming they were talking about ribeye. I'm quite the detective, I know. I just have a hunch that that's what the conversation was about. She then continues, lol, I'm glad you liked that. To which he says, I would happily cook for you. What's your favorite food? Oh, you will? I love baking, so maybe I'll bake you a cake or some bread, lol. I love steak, rare or medium rare. I love that idea. When can we make this happen? What a great start. I dare say these two are soulmates. This is wholesome, the exchange is going super well. Looks like they're about to set up a date to cook together or bake together. How could it possibly go awry? The good vibes continue. I'm not sure. You haven't asked me on a proper date yet. To which he says, what are you up to tomorrow evening? This is already looking like something out of a Hallmark movie. This is super efficient, super, great all around. She says, I'm pretty sure my family is stopping by because my sister's in town, but I'm not completely sure. What about you? I see. I've got nothing tomorrow evening. I'd like to schedule said date with you, but I also need to maneuver around holiday busyness. Do you have availability 12/26? And she says, I'm off all next week. The 26th would be perfect, with 2 blushing, smiling emojis. And I'm just sitting here, smiling, blushing, reading this story. Got me cheesing, it's so happy and wholesome. I also find it cute that in order to schedule the date, he conducted it like it was some kind of business meeting, penciling her in and locking it down. And the whole thing is just adorable. So how could it possibly end up in the shitter? What went wrong? Well, let's take a peek. Beautiful. It's a date. Would you be comfortable coming to my loft in blank and we can cook? I have a cat here too. She's lovely. To which she responds, no, I'm sorry. I don't do apartment dates for first dates. That literally made me so disappointed that you said that as a suggestion. I'm going to cut this loose. I hope you have a good Christmas and good New Year. Wish you the best. To which he says, all good. That's a totally understandable position from the woman here. Not going to a stranger's apartment for the first date is probably the safest decision you can make, so there's nothing wrong with setting a hard line in the sand like, hey, I don't really go to people's apartments for the first time meeting them. That kind of decision probably keeps you alive. You might end up at like a fucking serial killer's place. You go over there for medium rare steak, and you end up the steak. Turns out your Tinder date is Armin Meaves or something from Cannibal Cafe. So there's nothing wrong with her not wanting to go there for the first date. But she immediately jumps to being like, all right, we're done here. I'm so disappointed you even suggested it. Even though they were talking about cooking and baking together. It's not like he just pulled this out of his ass like a nefarious plot where he was rubbing his hands together and came up with this scheme. They were talking about cooking and baking together. How are you supposed to do that together outside of a household or an apartment or something? There's really no way to do that, so it should be pretty obvious why he suggested it. And he wasn't pressuring her into it. He even said, if you're comfortable, here's an option I think would be fun, since we've been talking about cooking and baking. He wasn't poking her or trying to bribe her into coming over there and set a trap or anything. He was just putting the offer out there. So I feel like a less aggressive response from her would have been something more along the lines of, hey, politely, I'd like to decline that. Don't feel comfortable going to your place for our first time meeting. And according to the comment section, he planned on offering an alternative because he understood why she wouldn't want to do that. But then things really start to pop off before he had the chance. So he says, I hope you have a great Christmas as well. To which she responds, Jdi du perdele zatratse. I'm 100% sure I butchered the pronunciation on that, but I popped it into Google Translate here, and it translates to go to hell, get lost. And I decided to investigate further, damn near having to revive Babelfish to try and get another translation, because that just sounded so incomprehensibly mean after all of this. But the other translation that I keep seeing for it is basically, fuck you. which just doesn't make any sense to me because the guy was just following the conversation they were having. They were both saying like, yeah, let's cook together. And then she even suggested baking, like, yeah, let's bake together. So he's like, all right, bet, let's do it. Let's cook and bake together. And then she just goes, fuck you, scumbag, get lost. So he tries to like explain himself. He goes, for the record, it just seemed like a logical next step in the conversation because we were talking about cooking together. Sorry to offend or disappoint you, ma'am. And she just goes, go fuck yourself, dude. This time, plain English. So that one I understood. And then he just says, very weird response in my opinion. And then she unleashes the demon here. She lets Hulkmania run wild. You know exactly why you fucking invited me to your loft. And it wasn't for cooking. Don't text me ever again. Blocked. And then he just goes, we met on Tinder, remember? Wish you the best in getting a date. I'll be warning all 30,000 women in blank about you. Now you're blocked. And he's just like, well, actually, wiggling his finger, blank has a population of 6.47 million, about half of which would be women. Warning 30,000 people about anything is an extremely tall order. You don't even get 30,000 people that heed hurricane warnings in Florida. If she's somehow able to send up the bat signal here to warn all 30,000 women in that immediate area about this guy, hats off to her. That's an incredible achievement, and she should use that power for good instead of evil. This guy didn't do anything wrong. He's clearly starting to take the piss here a little bit and just play around with it with that population remark. But I almost don't blame him because this is such an unbelievably hostile response to something that wasn't ever really meant in a disrespectful way, at least not from what I can see. She just immediately jumped to the conclusion that this guy is only looking to have sex with her. He's not actually inviting her over to cook. He is inviting her over to his place just for some coitus. There would be no steak being prepared. The only thing being steamed in that apartment would be ham. Steamed ham. I'm referring to them fucking. Like, that's such a stupid way of saying it. Mashing pissers, whatever have you. So she just believed that this guy was some huge asshole and was only using cooking as some kind of Trojan horse to get her over, but his true intentions were for a little bedroom rodeo action and nothing more. When really, to me, it really seems like they were talking about cooking and baking together. They were both on the same page. So when the idea of a date came up, which she proposed, the logical conclusion you draw is, hey, we've been talking about cooking and baking together, let's do that for our date. Like, it doesn't really seem like there was any kind of malicious intent behind it, and he never really had a chance to offer an alternative because she immediately just shut the whole thing down, which she has every right to do. There's nothing wrong with that, but it does seem like he wasn't trying to just be some douchebag or whatever. Like, it seemed like he was just offering a date that they had been talking about as a mutual interest. I'm sure he probably would have offered an alternative since she wasn't comfortable coming over to his place. He continues to just get a little sarcastic about things. He goes, please warn them about how a guy from Tinder invited you over to cook the day after Christmas. To which she says, dude, I'm in multiple groups totaling over 500,000. With your face, LMAO, you won't be getting no play unless you pay. Good riddance, roach. Honestly starting to sound like the Navy SEALs copy pasta. I've got over 500 confirmed blocks, and I will have your face plastered in the papers for 500,000 people to see. I'm part of every goddamn Facebook group on the East Coast, and they'll all know your name, villain. He just says, lol, roach. She continues, and I will, 2 exclamation points. It's like she's giving like a big speech in front of an auditorium. I'll let them know you tried to fucking invite me to your pathetic ass apartment for an easy lay masquerade as a cooking date. Yeah, we aren't stupid. Even your fucking hairline ran from you. Now sit back and enjoy being alone. And he just goes, I hope you find peace and love. Yeah, I mean, what else can you do except pray for happiness for her? Like, this went south so quick out of nowhere, and I don't think it needed to. They could have just said, like, not comfortable, are you open to anything else? And if he tried to be pushy about it, like, no, you have to come to my apartment, then all of this is a totally reasonable thing to say. Like, no, you clearly just want to fuck, get out of here, get lost, scram, Buster, you know, hit the road, take a hike. But she didn't even get that far. She immediately just jumped to this assumption that this guy is a piece of shit and he needs to go to hell and get lost. And now apparently she's going around putting up wanted posters like it's One Piece with a 5 billion berry bounty on this guy's head, all because he had the gall to invite her over for a cooking date that both of them were discussing together. I just don't really know how she'd even frame this as a bad guy to her 500,000 person group that she's a part of. I don't even know what group that would be. That's like a wildly large group to be a part of, and I can't imagine she has like a power position there where she can put out an APB on this guy or something. But even still, I don't really know how you could even spin this guy as a horrible person. But yeah, anyway, just wanted to cover this one. This one's different from the norm that we usually go over here, so that's really about it. See ya.